What's going on, guys? Beau here, and today I had a request and a question about how to paint skin from Grayscale. So I have my Rogue One picture here of Cassian Andor. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's awesome. And this question's from Tony. I think it's Guara. I hope I'm saying that right. I forget the name. I don't have it in front of me, but he participates in live streams from time to time with Zia Taptara, and he's in our Discord chat, and it's a lot of fun. So he was wondering how to get some skin tones, and I've had this question a few times actually in the past, and I just haven't made a video on it. So and I'm also doing this, well, not live streaming, but I'm not going to make any cuts. I'm just kind of talking from the top of my head here, because I want it to be authentic and for you to experience exactly what I go through here. So first things first, here's the picture of Cassian Andor here. We can I'm going to show you a few things here to how the buildup goes and all that good stuff here. So if I mute the mic, it's because I'm still getting over a cold. It's not quite as bad as my last video, but anyway, without further ado, so let's take a look at the layers here and how I built this up. So because it all has to do with how the skin goes. So we have the background here, right? And beyond the background, I have basically another background that I keep separately. That way I can have kind of a nice smooth gradient, because when you're painting values and painting skin, you want to have a believable light source for the background. And anyway, this is important. So this is the beginning of everything here, and this is kind of funny. You can see that I went grayscale, but there's also some blue, because sometimes I just start painting over my grayscale when I reach a certain level of confidence that I'm satisfied with the overall piece, and I know I'm not going to screw it up past a certain point. I just start painting some things over the grayscale. So here we go. We have grayscale, and as you can see in this state, the values are pretty smooth, right? We don't have a lot of muddiness going on. Everything has a clear read. We have shadows that are going from kind of medium tones to lighter tones. And if we kind of see here, if we pull this box out and we get it close to him, you can see where these values are going. I worked within probably the, if this is from 0 to 100, 0's up here at white, 100's black, I worked from about 15 or 20% to 80%. And it's very rare that I'll go all the way black or all the way white. If you want to see somebody that shades with black and is master of it, JC Leyendecker is a good resource for that. But he was a master, so he was able to pull that off a little bit easier. So anyway, so we have a good range of values here. Now, if you try to color something and if you're coloring grayscale and it comes out muddy, the reason that is because your values aren't defined enough. And these are really smooth. There's a nice gradient here. Now in the same hand, there's a nice definitive line of light source. We can tell the light source is coming from, we'll come over here, this way. Oh, why is that so? Oh, let's see, I need a good, here, I'll start a new layer here. That's kind of funny. There we go. Light source is coming from over here, right? This is our light. So I know this is kind of a lesson, but it all plays into how you color the skin and things to think about, because these gray values, if you mess these up, your color is going to come out really pitiful. So it's important that you can start coloring it, but I would focus on the grayscale for as long as you possibly can and make it look really smooth. And this isn't perfect by any means, but everything reads. We can tell he's holding a gun. We can tell where the shadows are. We can tell that he's wearing like 6 shirts in here. So keep that in mind. So I'll tell you what. Let's go to this layer here. So after that we should have multiply here, which when we crank that on, what I did was I turn on multiply over this grayscale, and this is defining some more shadows on him. So multiply is really good for that. Beyond that, what else do we have? Sorry, I'm trying to remember everything. Overlay, I have a couple of layers that don't really make a lot of sense. Some more overlay for some effects. That's kind of cool, huh? Okay, so let's get some overlay on here. Now here's basically the next important thing here. Why is this not swapping? Huh. Colors aren't swapping. My color palette isn't. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So picking your actual colors. So a couple things here. You know, I've talked about this a little bit, but it's been like in 2 or 3 minute videos. So your skin is composed of a bunch of different things happening. You know, when you walk out to the sun, I'm a pale guy. I have Scottish in me. I have Cherokee in me, but I'm a pretty pale guy overall. But I take a tan really well. But when I walk outside, you know, if you're looking at me and the sun's in the backdrop, you can see what's called subsurface scattering happening all over my skin, which is where if you step outside and you see the light shine through somebody's ears, it kind of has that orange glow. It'll happen on your nose. It'll happen sometimes around your eyes and, you know, of course, your lips. So this is blood that's kind of visible through your skin because of the light source outside. So what I usually do is I take kind of a red or red-brown color. And this is basically modeled after how masters would do this or how oil painters would do this. They would take colors and layer them. And we can go over the hair right now. That's okay. And I've got 100% opacity. That way, you know, if I, you know, we're coloring this thing in. And we're just focusing on the head right now. So we start right there, and you're thinking, oh my god, he looks like Hellboy. It's okay. And, you know, another good video for this is Ahmed Aldori has a great video on how to get, it's kind of how to get a particular hue. So it won't be exactly like the one I'm showing you right now, but it's a pretty good video to watch. And then after that, I follow up with a skin tone color. So this is kind of like blood. We're like painting the blood. And then what I do here, we can do the same layer. And this, you're never going to get the same exact effect, right? And the reason I start out with the dark color is because it's easier to go from, you know, the darkest value to the lightest value. You can kind of plug in things. So after that, I just start painting on top of it. And then you get some interesting textures and stuff. You know, if you go 100%, right? The reason I put it on 40% here, I think I can only do 20 undos, is because you're going to get, you know, you're going to paint all on top of that red. You won't have that red shine through, right? So you can play around with the opacity, you know, somewhere around 40, 30%, somewhere around there. And you get some interesting things happening underneath it, right? So what I like to do from there is, if you're outside, and, you know, a lot of these characters are going to be outside, you're going to have reflection of the sky on you. Now, it's not a huge reflection, but it is there. And, you know, you also, another thing is you have to think about your veins. You can see blue veins in your skin. So a lot of these interesting things happen. And for this, we'll kind of go, you can kind of play around. We can go 20%. That might be a little bit harsh, but like I said, these things, you can play around with the opacity and you're never going to get the same effect. But you can already kind of tell that this is kind of panning out into a pretty interesting effect here. You know, we have some skin that looks like just things are happening on it, you know. So after that, what I like to do is kind of take a peach color. And start filling in some of those spaces, right? So there you go. I mean, this is kind of a pale version. And then after that, you can do, actually here's what we can do. You can kind of start playing around with multiply again. Let's see. You find the right opacity. Actually, let's go a little bit more red here, brown. Here we go. And I like to do desaturated colors, which means, you know, if something's saturated, it's in the truest form of that color, right? So if you desaturate it, we're moving it over here towards the grayscale. So this would be completely desaturated. So I like to desaturate colors, and the reason being is because you can always have one element that really kind of pops and gives it that pop. So I like to desaturate colors for that reason. For this, actually, you know what? Let's try it a little bit more saturated. That might be a little bit better. And then we're going to go like 40%. And then you can kind of go and make little playful thing. Actually, that looks pretty bad. Sorry, I shouldn't do this. And this is kind of part of it. You kind of you're kind of doing some guesswork here. Actually, that's going to be more. I'm trying to match his original skin tone that I got. You kind of play around with it, and if you don't want the brush strokes, you can just do one solid thing, you know, like so. And you can do these on different layers and stuff, like I'm doing. Or you can have, like, if you want to do like the painterly look, you can have like brush strokes and stuff like that. But let's see here. Or you can also do like change this down to 40%, 41, who cares? And then you don't have to worry about brush strokes like that, and you kind of get more of a smooth kind of thing. And you can kind of do a gradient out, like turn my opacity down to 20% here and blur that line. And you can kind of start getting some interesting things going on here. Right? Let's bring some blood around his eyes. So anyway, you know, the point being, this isn't the exact build-up that we had before, you know, but it's pretty similar, right? It's a pretty similar thing here. Here we can kind of even mess with that. And you can see the effect is almost the same. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is you do this thing. Oh, that's a little bit much. You do this method, and you get kind of a different result, and it lets you play around with it. See, you see here, I played with the light, and I opted to kind of make a light spot on his cheek to show that the light was kind of maybe passing his bridge right here and nailing that spot on his cheek, and it just gives another little piece of definition here. And this is also kind of what I was talking about before, about if you desaturate colors, then you can have something else that kind of pops and makes the piece more interesting, you know. So I hope that this helps. Here, I'll show kind of a newer piece that I was working on. Let's see here. We can take Ray. I did Ray as a Sith Lord, and I think this looks pretty awesome. I'm pretty happy with this. But same premise, you know. Actually, you can. This is a good buildup of it right here. So we have, oh god, we have a lot going on with this, right? Because there's like lightsaber and all this good stuff. So we have the grayscale. You can ignore this red here. So we're just focusing on the skin. And I did screen. Now screen is a good way to show light. And, you know, if you have some grayscale going on and you want to bring some highlights into the piece, then pick out, you know, a nice little like mid-range gray and start painting over with the screen layer activated, and you can get some good highlights on your figure, get some good three-dimensional things. And then we have our multiply, and you can already start to see that I have a method, you know, and it's there's some continuity between my pieces and everything here. And this is where I went with overlay, and you can tell right here to where I was like, you know what, I got some critiques in a thread, and everybody was like, you know, it's too warm. You're trying to make her a Sith. She's out in the winter. So we slapped on another overlay, right? And then I started making the next bit of skin a little bit cooler. And we can turn on these layers. That's some light effects there. And let's see, normal. Oh yeah, that's the big one there. I just kind of went for it on that layer. I did all the highlights and, you know, the, not tattoos, but veins, I don't know, makeup, stuff like that. And then to toss it all off there, I did some soft light. Soft light is very similar to overlay. In fact, if you want to try to paint skin with soft light instead of overlay, you'll probably have a slightly different result. I just prefer overlay. But in this instance, I like the colors that soft light brought. It kind of gave like almost like a shiny, I don't know, kind of feel to it. I don't know. It kind of looked like it contoured her face better and stuff. Kind of hard to explain. It's more of a feeling when you start painting and stuff. Just mess around with a couple of layers. And I would also advise probably organizing your layers a little bit better than I do, because look, you can tell the ones I've deleted, the ones I've merged. I mean, it's a mess, and you don't want to get in a situation where you're, trying to delete something and you're like, where the hell did where did I put that? So there's a couple of examples of how you can build up skin colors, and a couple of tips for lighting and shadows as well, using multiply and screen. And I sincerely hope that answered your question. I hope that helps you. If you guys have any other questions, let me know and I can make a new video and address those issues. As always, hit that like button for me. That really helps me out. And thank you for your subscriptions and for watching. And I'll talk to you guys really soon, alright? Thanks. Bye-bye.